Hello, my name is Zach Riley. I'm one of the facilitators for the Soil Regenerative Agriculture group, which is under the Farming for Better Climate initiative. We're here today at MossSide of Esslie with Douglas Ruxton. Douglas, can you tell us a little bit about the farm here?
Yes, well, I started direct drilling 10 years ago. I've had 10 harvests. This is in the 11th year now, and just felt it was something I wanted to do different. I saw something at the cereals in Lincolnshire about 2 years before I bought the drill and planted the seed. So from then I started researching a bit more, Zach, and decided to take the plunge. It's had some challenging times, but it's worked, and it is working. So I'm happy I did it.
So the farm here, it's quite heavy soils. I also work quite a lot in Angus, where it's classed as boys land.
Boys land.
How have you found the direct or strip till drilling with such a challenging soil?
It took a couple of years, but the top portion of the soil, the top 3-4 inches, seems to break down and get a nice mould, which even in the heaviest land, when you turn it over, well when you sow into it in the springtime, it does seem to make a good seed bed. But it did take a few years, but it's certainly there now. It's made a big difference from the beginning. I went straight in to strip till with a claydon drill, which was a bit brave perhaps in hindsight, but there's nobody else really doing it round about, but may have done some things different. But it was a particularly wet year in 2012. Some bits weren't great, but it seemed to have got the hang of it, and it's working okay.
And over that time, have you seen any significant changes within your soils?
Oh yes, well, for instance, we had, as we said, quite a lot of rain a couple of weeks ago, and within a day and a half, I would say most of it was all gone. Quite low lying, very flat land, so when the burns come over, the water is just there. But it seems to get away, the drainage, the infiltration seems to be working really good. I suppose the whole structure of the soil is so much improved, and I'm quite fussy not to compact it any more than I have to. So the structure has helped drainage immensely, I would say.
You mentioned there about compaction. What are you doing on the farm which might help to reduce compaction? Minimum
traffic on the soil, try and leave trailers in the headlands, or if they are in the field, use the tram lines. Wouldn't say it's controlled trafficking, but just minimum. And even waiting that extra day, I can afford to do that on a smaller acreage. I can afford to wait maybe the extra day, let the soil just dry out a little bit more before you do have to travel on it. And seeding times, you really do have to wait until it's right. Just wait that extra day or so. And when the ground conditions are right, it's good to go.
So in regard to soil compaction, even the best people can't get it right all the time. How do you remediate it if it does go wrong?
Yeah, well, absolutely. We do have to do that occasionally. I have an old winged subsoiler, which if you do have to go in slightly deeper, say for instance some parts were damaged, headlands were damaged, or that can be used in extreme situations. But I also have a low disturbance topsoiler, which can be used just for odd headlands or odd bits, maybe where water has lay, and that does compress the soil. So maybe come springtime, you'll maybe alleviate odd parts here and there just to help in drainage. But you don't want to do that too often, because the more you do that, you ruin the structure that you've built up. So only in extreme cases are these tools used, I would say.
As and when it's required.
As and when, yeah.
Excellent.
I have done bits, blanket across the whole field and maybe miss sections, and then the next year you can see no difference. So often it's wasted effort.
So you mentioned that you've had approximately 5 inches of rain. It was about 2 weeks ago. There was a lot of flooding in the area. But the summer leading up to that was obviously one of the driest that we've had. Was it dry here? How did the crops cope here?
It was extremely dry, but the crops were established well, so they coped. If they get established well, they do seem to cope with most things. And dry weather's not a big problem once they're. If it'd been really dry first establishment, but once they get the roots down, the roots go down quickly and they establish well in the strip till situation, direct drill.
So within your rotation here, you've got oats and spring barley and wheat as well at certain years. How have you found establishing the spring crops using the strip till system?
Hasn't been a major problem. I have grown the whole range of crops, but I've kind of now gone back down to just oats and spring barley, predominantly spring barley, sometimes wheat after the oats. But it's, if you have patience to let the soil dry, now the structure is there, it's not a problem establishing oats. Getting fertiliser on, ideally with the seed, but if not, maybe prior to the seed. And once they get going, it's not a problem. Can't put them in too deep. That was a problem I did to begin with, put them in too deep. But if they're not too deep and they get moisture, it's good.
So you said wait for the soils to dry out as a key for getting the spring crop establishment right. Is that usually a few weeks later or a few days later
It's
than the conventional system?
We are always later here anyway because it's quite heavier. So quite a few of my neighbours have been going for quite a few days. It can be a week earlier, but I wouldn't say any more than a week earlier. But and I maybe just wait an extra day just to be on the safe side if the weather forecast looks good, because then when you do go, you can cover the ground quite quickly. So it is worth just having patience. I know it's not easy on a big scale, but I can do that.